Good evening and welcome. My name is Joanne Nice and I will be your host for this evening. Now, before we kick off with the content, I would just like to remind you that there are 3 different platforms that you can interact with us. Firstly, you can post your questions in the Q&A function that is part of your Zoom toolbar. Secondly, you can tell us hi, welcome in the chat box, where you're from, where you're studying. And then on the third one, we're going to have some polls popping up during the course of this evening. And that would be not part of anything, but more to help Wilco and Alfreda in guiding the talks for this evening. Now, without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Wilco and Alfreda Jonker, our wife and team duo. Wilco is a wealth manager from Harbour Wealth and has been going at it for 14 years. He is quite the investment specialist. Alfreda is an attorney at Michael Berger Attorneys and for the last 16 years, and she specializes in property developments. Wilco, over to you.
Awesome. Well, from our side, hi everyone. Welcome to our house again for part 2 of this wealth management webinar. And
I just want to say, I hope that you guys appreciate our technical fundi, Joe. Thank you. Much better than the previous one. Better start. We got in some help. As you guys would have seen from the previous one, we do not know what we're doing when it's going down to all the technical stuff. So thanks, Joe. Really appreciate it. Hope you guys enjoy tonight.
Yeah, brilliant.
And then it'll go seamless this time around.
Well, let's not tease faith. All right, guys, we thought we're going to start with a quick recap because there are some of you that did not attend part 1 or who didn't have who couldn't because we just could only allow 100. So we're thankful for everyone that's joining tonight. So the recap from my side on the wealth management, just quickly going back, we discussed how to pick a wealth manager, first of all. So therefore, we thought, you know what, or not thought, one of the things that stood out is, first of all, your wealth manager needs to be independent. It's extremely important that you partner with someone that's independent. You can't go to an Audi dealership and expect that guy to tell you that anything else is better than Audi. So get an independent advice, that would be perfect. Then we also discussed tax-free investments. You'll remember I mentioned that, and you'll hear tonight as well, we're working towards financial freedom. I hate the word retirement, so we work towards financial freedom. And the first thing that we said was tax-free investments. Yeah. And there was some questions, and that's why we're going into the retirement annuities, because these two can actually link up very good for retirement purposes. And then just quickly on the tax-free, you remember those rules. Please don't open up more than one because you're gonna play with the whole limit of 36,000 Rand. SARS is going to penalize you 40% for every single Rand.
They do pick up on it. I promise you, we've seen it.
We've seen a few where people just had a few tax-free investments and they didn't keep tabs on how much they've invested. So it's the 36,000 and then the 500,000, and then at the end of the day, when you start withdrawing from it, there's actually no tax involved. So that's just a short snippet. Alfreda, yours?
As you guys will see, we're having our wine tonight, as promised. So cheers. I hope you guys are keeping warm, snuggling up.
Cheers, everyone.
Wilco literally had to bribe me to get out of my jammies tonight. So I hope you're in your jammies, snuggling up with either a heater or someone. Have a glass of wine. Quick recap from my side. We did the ANCs, the anti-nuptial contracts, and the 3 different types of marriages that you can enter into in community of property, out community of property, and with the accrual system. You need to register an anti-nuptial contract for out of community of property, in community of property, no contract needed. You need a notary public to do that for you. So if you've got any questions regarding the first session and anti-nuptial contracts and or how to get married and the ins and outs of that, give us a ring, pop us a WhatsApp or a mail or a question for Joe, and we'll get round to that. But that was what the first session was about.
Just a quick point on that. I know there's some of you that are engaged. Please remember that contract is not something that you can sign after the I-do's. So then you are married in community of property. So it's just a small little thing, because I know you get excited with this and that and organizing everything. And then before you know it, you're married and you're in community of property, and then it's just a schlep to get out of that. All right. Is there anything else? I think we can carry on. So I'm going to be first tonight. And I'm going to touch on retirement annuity. So Joe, if you can maybe throw up the first poll for us there. I thought it would be nice just to quickly see how many of you have already actually started saving towards financial freedom. Now, why do I use the word financial freedom? Because retirement, we all grow up in South Africa, and I'm going to skip the few parts of you have to finish school, you have to get a degree, get your husband or wife at varsity, and then get married straight after varsity.
Don't do that.
But a lot of them go and they say, get a retirement annuity. Okay, you need to start saving for retirement. And then you've got this thing in your head that retirement is at the age of 65. I turn around. I work with financial freedom. Because when can you retire? It's when you are, whenever you want to. That's the first thing. And it's when you are financially free in the sense of you can earn passive income without having to work anymore.
Yeah.
Now, for some people, lately, YouTubers, I think in part 1, I said that as well.
Influencers.
Your influencers and YouTubers can retire at the age of 18, apparently. But some people do it at 18, some people do it at 25, 40, and the majority, some people never retire.
But is there still that stigma that you retire at 65?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's the stigma, 65 and up.
Yeah,
okay.
Especially when you go and work corporate. There's a lot of corporate institutions that still, they basically force you. They think that you're old at the age of 65.
I think all state departments, don't they? State
departments, no. Some of them even earlier than 65. They ask you to basically step aside. So let's delve into retirement annuities. Let me just quickly check here. All right, so.
Sorry, Wilco hasn't got his glasses on, so he really has to check very closely.
I've got another tablet on this side, just for everyone. I've got some technology on this side helping you out.
Sorry,
all right, so quickly from the poll, awesome. A quarter of you guys. I mean, if we look at that, 26% has already started saving towards financial freedom.
That's good.
Now, that's amazing. To think that a quarter of the audience, because there's just over 100 people that voted, a quarter of you have already started, and that's almost unheard of to think that you are still students. And the good thing about that is you are already, I think, 10 steps ahead than the majority of the people. But the good thing is the 3/4 that has not yet started. The good thing is it's never too late. That is the awesome thing. And most of the audience, with being a professional, you're going to earn an above average income. So you can always play catch up. You are never too late. It's just important to start prioritizing these type of things. Sit down with the wealth manager and discuss your plan. You remember part 1, the whole traveling to Cape Town. There's many ways to get there. The end destination is Cape Town. It's just important that you start planning so that you can get there. All right. So let's jump quickly into retirement annuities and the key features. And please, guys, please send us questions. Be interactive. There is going to be a Q&A at the end. We've left enough time so that we can actually get to a lot of questions tonight.
Well, yeah, we're going to try, and if we can't get to you guys, we've got the means to do it afterwards this time around. So we'll get around to you guys.
Okay, so first of all, and I think maybe I'm going to skip this one, Joe, quickly. If you can throw up the question about the tax deduction while I'm talking about some of the key features. Now, retirement annuities, it's important to understand the rules. You will see that when you are approached by a typical financial advisor, one of the first things they're going to try and sell you is a retirement annuity. Okay. Now, if you don't understand the rules, I've come across a few people in their 30s, 40s phoning me. I'm their new advisor. They just started the journey with me, but they've had a retirement annuity in the past. And they ask me, Wilco, can I please withdraw from my retirement annuity? You are not allowed to. Not at all. There's actually brand new legislation that just came out today or promulgated to this afternoon that in the past, if you had a retirement annuity that was paid up and it was below 7,000 Rand, you could actually withdraw the whole amount. Okay. They have upped that now to 15,000. So that is a little bit of a break for those that are in, let's call it old generations retirement annuities that are extremely costly. But I'll get to that now. So back to the rules. Once you're in a retirement annuity, it's above 15,000. You can only access that money on a few occasions. One is age 55 earliest. So don't start saving 5, 10, 15,000 Rand straight from the bat next year, thinking that you can access that money. You're not going to. The second one is if you immigrate. Now, they've also applied a new rule onto that, where if you now immigrate and you've got a retirement annuity, your money must stay within South Africa for the next 3 years. Okay. And then the last one is if you become permanently disabled. So those are the three. So please remember, those are key important factors. I think the one that stands out, you're not allowed to touch your money at all before the age of 55 earliest. Okay. Now, when you get to 55, there's also rules involved. You are not allowed to take all of that for yourself. You can only take 1/3. Now, there's a little bit of technicality in that as well, and I don't want to bore you guys, but if your amount is below 247,000, you can actually withdraw all of it. But if it's above that, which in most instances, all of you are going to be above that, you can take 1/3, and 500,000 of that is tax-free. Okay. Then the other 2/3, whether it's 10 million, 15 million, 20 million, or 1 million, you must take out a living annuity. Now, maybe in the next session, we might touch on that, but I think that's something with a one-on-one discussion with a wealth manager. You start withdrawing from your living annuity and income. So you're basically saving yourself a pool of money so that one day when you are financially free and you don't want to work anymore, you can start withdrawing from that. And that is then going to be taxed as well. Okay. Now, one of the other rules when you do go into a retirement annuity, and this is also a discussion where I like to explain it to my clients, and they understand that technical part of a Regulation 28 compliant fund. You have to be Regulation 28 compliant when you invest into a retirement annuity. That's just, once again, rules that's implemented, which means that you can't be exposed to more than 75% of South African equity. Okay, so that's the asset class. You can't have more than 25% of your portfolio in South African property. And then offshore exposure, if you include Africa, then you can take 40% offshore, but excluding Africa, you can only take 30% offshore. Now, if you look at a typical growth model that Harbour would put in place for you at this stage, we've got 25% South African equity, 60% offshore equity and property, and only 2% South African property. So if you look at that structure compared to Regulation 28, it can limit you. So it can limit your growth, but please, this session is to enlighten you about retirement annuities. They are still amazing. There's still a place for them. So don't see it as in a negative way. It's just important that you understand the rules, because I know there's some of you that might go and open up a retirement annuity on a platform yourself, and you're not going to make use of someone.
But am I correct in saying that when you sit with your financial manager or your wealth manager, that it's important to discuss the difference between a normal investment?
Yeah. There's a place for a normal investment and a retirement annuity. We call it a discretionary investment.
Yes.
There's actually some very nice articles out there that in the age group where you fall, what is the best? It's almost back to the whole property discussion of the part one. There's no right or wrong. It depends on what suits you the best. Once again, know the rules, ask all the questions. And
I think that's the important thing, is ask the questions.
Yeah.
Know what questions to ask.
Yeah, very important. Joe, can you quickly give me the results there of the poll? I just quickly want to see what the general knowledge is on the percentage that one can actually deduct. We got it there. Let me quickly check. Yeah, it's a close race. Okay, so 29% of you said 10%, 25% said 17.5%, 23% said 27.5%, and then 23%. So it's basically an even split between everything. It's 27.5%. So give yourself a tap on the back if you got that right. 27.5% of your total taxable income can be used as a deduction for tax purposes. Now, this is where I quickly want to also emphasize. If someone is going to sell a retirement annuity to you, they're going to tell you that you can deduct the whole amount that you are contributing towards a retirement annuity for tax purposes. So the first thing that comes to mind is, oh yes, if I put 10,000 in, it's 120,000. I'm getting 120,000 back from SARS. It's not the way it works. Well, how it works from a tax point of view quickly is, let's say you earn, I think you guys start with about 700,000 per annum. So if you contribute 100,000 into a retirement annuity, SARS is going to see it as you earn 700,000, you contributed 100,000 to a retirement annuity. That means they should have taxed you on 600,000, but they taxed you on 700,000. Therefore, on the 100,000 that they basically overtaxed you, you will get a percentage back. So please make sure of that, because I've seen salesmen in the industry, they tell you, you can claim all of this back from SARS, and they even sell it to you as you'll get all of this back. No, it works as a deduction. The same as your medical aid, contributions towards a medical aid can be used as a deduction. Okay, so 27%, 27.5%, and then that is capped at 350,000 per annum that you're allowed to contribute towards a retirement annuity. If you go over that, it can roll up. So that's the good thing. Being a professional, doctors, you are going to get to that 350. It's a brilliant way to basically minimize your tax in the future. So you are going to get to that 350 per annum. It's an amazing tool. And then you're going to roll that up. So the good thing is, come financial freedom / let's call it now retirement for now, when you put your 2/3 into a living annuity, whatever you have rolled up can then be withdrawn from your living annuity tax-free. Because remember, you didn't get that tax benefit, and therefore you're going to get that benefit actually at retirement when you start withdrawing from it. Okay. I think that's basically it. I want to end off with a quote from George Foreman. He said,
you're prepared, Nick.
Yeah, I came in prepared this time. The question isn't at what age you would like to retire. It's at what income. Now, with that said, sit down, look at Excel spreadsheets, but don't let that confuse you. Don't let that scare you. There's many ways to work towards financial freedom. We've discussed the tax-free investment. We've discussed discretionary investments. We've discussed a property portfolio. Your practice one day that you're going to practice from, that building that you own, all of that is going to form part of working towards your financial freedom. That's why I say that was the rules of a retirement annuity, but that's where it basically stops.
And I think our next session, we were toying with the idea of maybe discussing with you guys estate planning, because that also slots into this whole when will I retire? How will I be able to take care of my kids or my wife or my husband or whatever when I'm not there anymore, as well as the whole budget thing surrounding how much can I put into retirement savings or annuities or investments. But it's not as scary. It sounds scary when you've never done it before, but as everything in life, when you start out, it gets easier when you start doing it. So have a discussion with your wealth manager, discuss it with them, with people you trust, your auditor or whoever does your tax, when you set up your practice, when you've finished with all your ComServe and everything, discuss it with someone, have a financial plan. I think that is the biggest point that we want to come across or bring across to you guys, is have financial freedom through practicing and sticking to your plan, difficult as it may seem.
Yeah, 100%. And that's that from me. Guys, I am checking the questions. I'm going to give it over to Alfreda now. She's going to have her section.
I think, Joe, won't you just pop my poll, please?
And then I'll be working through the questions here. Some of them I might type answers. Otherwise, I will answer all of that at the end. Thanks, love.
Tomorrow. You might hear our dog outside. She's I hear her. She's cold. All right, guys, our poll that I put up there. Are you guys scared to sign a rental agreement or a lease agreement? I know that lots of people are scared to put pen to paper because you've got no idea what's supposed to be in there. And it can be scary. I read an article the other day that said that buying a property is the biggest commitment that people make, financial commitment that they make during their lives. And I think the same as with you guys when you work with patients, the same with us, it becomes part of your daily routine. So buying and selling and developing, it kind of becomes part of what you do, so you don't actually realize the impact that it has on people's lives. So give us an indication there. Are you scared to put pen to paper? And then I will see from that. Can you give me the results? Okay, most of you Almost 70% of you guys are scared to put pen to paper, and that is quite understandable, as I said. So let me quickly then, I'm going to go and spend a little bit of time on a rental agreement and then on a sale agreement, and quickly tell you guys just a few pointers to look out for. Obviously, next year, you'll have the option to stay in the accommodation that's provided to you. But then in some instances, I don't know what the percentage of you guys will be renting or buying. Getting into either renting or buying, go and check out the YouTube channel. Yeah. We had a huge discussion in lockdown last year, discussion, not an argument, a discussion about should I rent or should I buy? And that's a discussion that we've been having for years. Go and check it out, and that'll give you some insight as to the financial implication of renting and buying.
Just quickly come in there, love. That's Wilco Jonker. My name and surname straightforward. That's my YouTube channel. There's actually a lot of other videos. There's also a lot of other videos that you can just gain some knowledge from.
So, I haven't got that. No, I'm raising the kids. Okay. All right, guys. Lease agreement. The most important thing that you must know from a lease agreement is that when you use a rental agent, most of the contracts are stock standard. When you rent from a personal, let's say when there's no agent involved, then I would advise that you take that contract to an attorney, definitely pay the money, have them check it out. But most rental agreements from estate agents are stock standard. There's one thing that you guys must, or the first thing that you will know is that you will require to pay a deposit, 1 or 2 months, depending on what the agency requires from you guys. And that will be invested in an interest-bearing account, and you will receive the interest at the end of the rental period. Then the next thing is obviously your rental term that you'll have to check onto, make sure that it's 12 months or 14 or 16 or whatever you require. So make sure that you check that the rental term is correct and when you will occupy the property. The rest is quite stock standard, as I said, the amount that's payable, when it's payable, where it's payable. I think the most important thing about signing a rental agreement is the inspection. The inspection before you move into the property. Make the time to be at the property with the agent and go through everything. Take photos, make a list, because I'm going to tell you why. At the end of your rental period, that agent is going to do another inspection of the property to check if you damaged the property in any way. And you will be held liable for all the wild parties and all the damage that you've done to the property. As I know my husband did when he was a student.
No one had wild parties, no one ever.
And I had to clean up his messes with all his rental agreements. So check that, do the inspection, take the time, and make sure that all the property, all the damage that you can see, broken tiles, broken lights, windows, doors that are not closing, keys that are not there, make sure that you check that property thoroughly with the agent and that everything is contained in an inspection report that you sign with the agent. And then also when the rental term is finished, make sure that you do exactly the same inspection with the agent, because they will then deduct, if there's any damage, they will deduct it from your deposit. All right. I think that was it. Sorry, I'm just checking my notes quickly.
Oh, so you also came prepared.
Just a little bit. Sorry, that's old age. When you bend, you get that. That was the inspection. Oh, also, make sure that you read through the responsibilities that you have in terms of the rental agreement. Make sure that you know what maintenance is for your account and what is not. So that you know that if there's a light bulb going out, that it's actually your responsibility and that you don't phone your landlord or your agent and say my bulb needs replacing or whatever. But if there's pipes that burst or plumbing problems or whatever, that you know that you are that you must phone the agent or the landlord and tell them about the problems that you're having in your rental property. All right, if there's anything else, I think regarding a rental agreement, if you're unsure about anything or anything that looks out of the ordinary, phone, make an appointment with an attorney, have them read through it. But as I say, regarding rental agreements and agencies, they're all more or less exactly the same. There's not really something in there that shouldn't be.
Can I give one tip quickly there from a wealth management point of view? Guys, if doctor's quarters, DQ, if that is decent and it's good, go and stay there. It's cheap. It's just, once again, like I said in the beginning, anything that can put you 2 or 3 steps ahead is beneficial for you in the long run.
And it's only a year.
Well, it can be 3. Depends on how long you want to stay there. But yeah, that's just from a wealth management. Don't go and spend a lot of money on renting an upmarket place. It's just going to.
There's a time and place for that, and you'll definitely enjoy the fruits of saving for a year or 2 or 3.
Yeah, definitely. Is that?
No, then I'm moving over to sale agreement.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Guys, the most important thing that comes across my desk on a daily basis, people that say to me, oh, I signed an offer to purchase a property. I'm like, okay, but you actually should have asked me to look at it before you signed the offer. And they said, no, it's just an offer. No, an offer, that is the sale agreement. The moment that you put your pen to paper, that offer becomes the sale agreement. So don't think that you're signing an offer to purchase a property. You are purchasing the property the moment that you put your pen to paper. All right, so make the knot in your ear and remember that when anybody hands you an offer to purchase, take it to an attorney. All right, then what I want you guys just to remember, just for remembering, make sure that your marital status is filled in correctly on the contract, because if you married in community of property, your spouse has to sign the contract with you. Marital status. Make sure that you know if the property that you're buying is either sectional title or full title, and have the agent explain to you the difference between sectional title and full title. And remember, when you buy a sectional title property, that you cannot build or extend your unit without the consent of the whole complex, firstly. Secondly, that you'll have to budget for the levies that you will have to pay for that sectional title. Just in short, but make sure that you know. And a due het is also a sectional title unit. Even if the agents don't know it, make sure that you are aware of the fact. But ask them, is this sectional title or full title? If you guys aren't sure, ask an attorney to do a research for you so that you can check that. One of the most important things and that people don't understand is your loan. 90% of people that buy properties in South Africa make use of a loan. And in your contract that you will see that there's a subject to clause. So you'll make use of that subject clause, which means that if you do not obtain the loan or the loan amount that was filled in on the contract, your contract will be null and void. So that is basically to secure you from, if you don't qualify, then you're not sitting with a property. So that's an escape, if I can put it like that, that if you do not qualify for the loan, then you don't have to take the property because the contract is null and void. So you will see that the loan clause will say, this contract is subject to the approval of a loan of 2 million rand within the next 30 days. Which means if you do not get a loan within 30 days or for 2 million rand, the contract is null and void. That's why it's subject to. So make sure that when you fill in a contract or when someone fills in a contract for you, the estate agent, that it is actually filled in correctly. The next point I want to make is the occupational clause. I can't even start to tell you guys how many after sales fights we've had with people where this clause wasn't filled in correctly. Make sure that there's either an occupation date or that it says occupation on registration. But most importantly, make sure that you guys agree on an occupational rental, especially now in COVID. And with all the state departments that's working a little bit slower than usual, there's no way that an attorney can time the process regarding the transfer of your property. So if you're planning on occupying the property at a certain date, let's say, for instance, you want to occupy on the 1st of August, make sure that you know what amount occupational interest will be paid to the seller. Because otherwise, if you can't agree on that, it's tremendous problems for the transferring attorneys, for the agent, and for everyone involved, because you can't move in. So that is an important clause, that there must be an agreement between the seller and the purchaser about that. Yeah, just 2 more points. Make sure that on your contract that there's 3 things that you must ask the agent to make sure that you have. You must have an electrical certificate, or the seller must provide you with an electrical certificate. You must have a gas certificate. You must have an electrical fence certificate. And very, very, very important, make sure that you get the building plans of that property, sectional title or full title. Make sure that you've got that. Then lastly, agent's commission is for the seller's account. Am I running over my time? Okay. Make sure that the agent's commission is for the seller's account. And if you are unsure, take your contract to an attorney and they'll run through it. It's worth it. Please pay for it rather than signing and running into trouble.
Guys, you see, it's way easier to start an investment than buying property. But anyway, I think the important thing that stands out for me is, and let's go to part 1, where I gave you a lot of rules about tax-frees, how to partner with someone. Alfreda touched on tonight with have knowledge, ask questions, get the right people involved. You've seen a short snippet because we only have so much time to try and give you the important things. By the way, there is going to be a recording after this that we're going to send out, not like part 1 where I messed it
Promises.
This is going to be a proper one. We'll get to that. And then, so just back to the whole sit down, gather information. I know we grow up in a world where everything is instant. I mean, Instagram, we want instant gratification on everything. Starting an investment, buying property, which is also an investment, or renting. It is not something that you just run into without the proper knowledge. I always use the example, and it will sit well with you guys, and then we're going to go into the Q&A, because otherwise I'm stealing a lot of time again. If you have to go and get a heart surgery tomorrow, you're probably going to ask 2, 3, 4 cardiologists their opinion. You're going to gather a lot of information, and before you actually going to go and do it. Now, I see it as your heart and your brain. That's the 2 things that basically keeps you going. Your investments is your lifeline towards financial freedom. Don't go into it blindly. Ask 1, 2, 3, 4 opinions, and then maybe read up a little more. Okay, but that's enough about me. We've had some awesome questions coming in. Joe, before I give over to you, I just saw a few in the chat, which I want to quickly touch on. There was one question about, give me car buying advice. Short and sweet. The cheapest reliable car. Yeah. The cheapest reliable car. Please don't buy something fancy. It's not worth it. A car is probably the worst asset that you can ever own, because as it stands outside in the garage, it's depreciating. Okay, unless you go and buy vintage stuff, but we'll get into that. So quick answer, short and sweet, the cheapest, most reliable.
Don't spend lots of money on a car.
No, not at all. Okay. Joe, over to you.
Great, thanks, Wilco. I love what you said about making an informed decision. I think that's why we have 140 delegates on the call this evening, making informed decisions. So that's great to know. Okay, you have a couple of difficult ones here. So I'm going to start you off with, how can advice fees influence my overall payout at retirement? And Wilco, that one's for you. And then maybe 2 each, and then we can keep it running from there. You have quite a few, so
okay, like brilliant. I'm going to try and go through it. Okay. How can advice fees? Yes, sorry, Joe.
No, not at all. Go.
Okay, cool. So advice fees, it all comes back to the whole effective annual cost. Make a note. Part 1, I touched on it. I'm going to touch on it now. At budgeting, at the 3rd one, and at the 4th session later this year, when we all get together, COVID permitting, that's going to be an awesome function. But effective annual cost, you have to know what your effective annual cost is.
Even if that's the only question that you ask.
Even if you sit down with someone and they tell you, listen, do you want to invest? You start the conversation with, what's my effective annual cost? And then we did a calculation at Harbour Wealth. If you save 2%, only 2% in fees, compounding over 20 years. Now, the scary thing is if you guys start an investment, let's say next year, you've got more than 40, 50 years towards financial freedom if you're going to work till 60, 70. Okay. If you save 2% over a period of 20 years, that is 43.86% that you've lost out on. Almost half of your portfolio is gone, and that's by just saving 2%. Okay, cool. Next one.
Okay. There's another one that says, do I still have to wait to the age of 55, even if I decide to retire earlier?
Yeah, unfortunately, if you enter into a retirement annuity, remember those three things that I said. It's legislation, you can't change it. You can access it at age 55 onwards. If your fund value is below 15,000, but that's never going to be the case in your instance. If you become permanently disabled, or you're on the fourth one, if you immigrate from South Africa. Unfortunately, before anything outside 55. That, you can't touch your money.
Okay. Okay, great. Alfie, another one for you is, am I allowed to use my my deposit for my last month's rent?
No. I know lots of people think that their deposit can be utilized for the last month's rent, but you're not allowed to touch that. That'll stay in that investment account, and after the agent inspected the property, paid for cleaning, painting, repairing all the damages, then you get with the balance of your deposit back. If there's no damages, you get the whole deposit plus your interest, but otherwise that'll be deducted from it, and that's your landlord's security as to all the risks that they take renting the property to you. So under no circumstances can that be utilized for land rental.
Okay, we have an interesting one. How does the 99-year lease that's getting quite popular these days, how does that work?
Oh, it's not that popular. It's been around for quite a few years, almost 99 years. No jokes. It's a lease agreement that's registered in the deeds office on a notarial basis, and that's a long-term lease agreement. It's a very difficult lease agreement to sign, and I wouldn't advise it just from the word go. It's because 99 years are really a long time. I know that in Mozambique and few of the bordering countries, that's quite a type of rental agreement that they use, but in South Africa, it's not that common. But as I said, that's very specialized. So I would advise that if you want to enter in something like that, and there's also a lot of criteria that needs to be filled. So talk to your conveyancer, and they will also then, well, you must be a notary as well to do that for you guys.
Okay, great. Alfie, another one that came up here is the rental time, for instance, 12 months, bounding by contract, or can you vacate before that without repercussions? Like, I think also legally is 1 month's notice acceptable, even though the contract says that it's 12 months?
Yeah. That's also, it's a very difficult question to answer in the instance that if you purely look at the contract, then you've got a fixed term of 12 months or whatever you put in your rental agreement. But according to the Rental Housing Act and the CPA, you can give notice. There will actually be then a damage clause where they can claim damages from you for the early termination of your rental agreement. But there are means and ways where you can vacate the property beforehand, but you will be held liable for damages.
Okay, great. Wilco, if you're ready, I'm just going to read this one off for you. This one is from Michael. There just seems like there's a lot of tax everywhere. How is this exactly accounted for so that we don't feel the chunks leaving us when we receive our living annuity? Do we still fall into the same brackets because it's seen like a salary?
Okay. All right, so I read that one as well. So quickly at retirement once again, but into the living annuity. Yes, you get a little bit of a lower tax bracket. So once you're at retirement, you're not going to pay exactly the same. But when you're in the top tax bracket of retirement income, you're also going to pay, I think it's 36%. I think that's the top, where 45 is now up to retirement. Whereas from age 56 into a living annuity, you're going to pay 36. So it depends on how much you're going to withdraw. Is there tax everywhere? Yes. The only two things you can't escape is death and taxes. So that's always going to happen to you. And by the way, I am not a tax practitioner. I know the ins and the outs about tax when it comes to investments. I've got a very, very good knowledge of how to not say manipulate tax, but but to avoid tax in a legal way so that it can benefit you. There are very, very good tax structures.
I would say tools is the correct word.
Yes, there we go. There's just a quick snippet on that. There's ways of moving money across overseas. Isle of Man, there's tax havens when we get into that. So yeah, tax is always going to be involved.
It's horrible.
It's important, guys, to structure. Just on that note, we talk about wealth protection when you sit down with me. Now, a lot of people go like, ah, now he's going to sell me life cover and it's income protection, it's all of that. But part of protecting your wealth is having the right structures in place, because you never ever want to sit in a scenario where I sit with a client and nothing was structured correctly, and now he passes away with an estate of over 20 million, and we're looking at estate duty of 1 to 3 million, where his relatives are they're just gonna have to pay that, because estate duty is 20%. But I don't want to get into that now, because there's a lot of rebates. So quickly recap your question. Tax is always involved. There's ways of maneuvering around it. And then at retirement, there's a tax.
Speak to the specialists.
Yep, there's a guideline. You're going to pay tax when you start withdrawing from your living annuity. Next one, Joe.
Okay, so that one answers the question on contributing towards retirement annuity and the tax reductions. But then we have another one here is, in the event I pass away, what happens to my retirement annuity? So I think going up towards what can I get from tax? And then...
Can I answer?
Go for it.
Okay, so when you sign the application, when you enter into a retirement annuity, you will be nominating a beneficiary. You can change that beneficiary at any time. If you're the owner of the contract or of the investment, you can always change that. And then if you do not have a beneficiary, it will just form part of your estate. That's part of it.
Okay.
So you will get a beneficiary. It's going to be out to you.
I think we definitely have to look at the budgeting aspect for next time, because there's a couple of car purchases coming through, and then also people wanting to know, how does the balloon payment work for a car purchase, and also how do you decide on a medical aid and what you can
have a YouTube chat about payments.
Yeah.
Often also there's they're touching on medical aid, choosing the right medical aid, so I think that also has a lot to do with budgeting.
Yeah, it's all about making informed decisions.
Yes.
Gather as much information as possible.
But I think budgeting.
Yeah, I think a lot of those we're going to touch on in part 3 or part 4 maybe.
Okay.
It's good. Thanks for your questions as well. I think we're going to have a few more, but those that we do not get to, we will send out an email afterwards answering all of your questions, because I see there's a few in the chat as well that's not been asked in the chat. So we'll get to all of that.
Okay, there's another one here from... Sorry, Wilco?
No, carry on.
There's another one here from JJ. It says, what is the criteria before one is considered immigrated? Can I visit?
Okay. Awesome.
And then also,
very good question.
Sorry, yes?
Yeah.
There's another one here on the prenup. I don't know if you want to touch on that now, a recap from last time, or if you want to maybe answer the question directly in an email.
Throw it.
What are the pros and cons of having a prenup?
Okay, that's a very easy one to answer. The cons of being married in community of property where you haven't got an antenuptial contract is that you've got a joint estate. That means that all your assets and liabilities will be forming part of one estate. That means that you can't buy a car, you can't buy property, you can't enter into business agreements without your partner or your spouse signing with you. And it works 2 ways around. I mean, if he incurs debt, that's also my debt now. So that's the cons regarding not having an antenuptial contract, where if you have one and you marry out of community of property, you are independent with your own estate. And then where that also balances out a little bit is with if you've got the accrual system that you bring into your antenuptial contract that says that everything that was gathered during the course of your marriage then will be split when the marriage ends, either through divorce or death.
Okay,
cool.
Wilco, I have another. Yes. Sorry?
I just quickly want to answer that immigrate one, because I think that's an important one. Specifically last year, it's a very huge topic as well with the whole immigration from financial immigration. So when you immigrate from South Africa, there's a few ways financially. So you basically give up all your ties, and that's also important to sit down and have a decent discussion to understand the implications of when I financially immigrate. A lot of people just go, I can't wait to leave this country because SARS is killing me. Remember, there's tax in other countries as well, first of all. And yes, it's a debate that you get something for your tax, but long story short, you're not just going to get away from it. Immigrating from South Africa, if you financially immigrate, you have to basically give up everything. Yes, JJ, you can come and visit. you can even invest in South Africa, but then you are seen as an offshore investment. You're seen as a foreigner. You can not even, once you financially immigrate, it goes as far as you can't even have a golf membership at a club. You can't have active golf membership, because then they go like, but why do you still want to have active golf membership
when you're not a citizen in South Africa?
And then also you can't have accounts this side. You can only have like one dormant account where you can transfer money into if you pass away or inheritance. So once again, there's so many things involved around immigration that I think we should just start a YouTube channel for the both of us. Where you'll be involved, where we can chat about all of that. But yeah, that's quickly on that. Joe, is there more?
Yes, there's a lot. There's are there some retirement products you can recommend off the top of your head that works well for doctors in general?
It works for doctors in general. I would say what works for people in general, in the sense of, go back to the whole financial freedom. We're working towards that. There's no specific products. I hate it when someone sells you stuff. Have a discussion, sit down, work towards that financial freedom. Start planning. Yes, you might not think about having a practice now because you're still juggling the balls. Am I going to specialize? Am I going to start my own practice? Where am I going to start? Am I going to work for the state?
Am I immigrating?
Am I immigrating? Am I going to have a stint overseas? So there's a lot of things. Am I going to invest into property? Do I like the whole property portfolio? So is there products? Yes, the typical ones are a retirement annuity, a tax-free investment, and a discretionary investment. Those are products. But then you can take it further and you can go into an international pension plan. So that's where we take your money to the Isle of Man. We exclude it from your estate and there's no tax involved. So I
think the quick answer to that is no, there's no product that we would advise for doctors, especially. I think that regarding the planning, it will be specialized for you as a person or as a couple, as a family, as a doctor per se, and what your needs are and what the funds are that you've got available.
All right, next one, Joe.
When do you think is the ideal time to get life insurance? I would presume to start with investing in life insurance.
Okay, so life insurance, I'm going to try and do a quick one because that's going to also be part of, I think, maybe 4. When we all get together, we'll have a session on that. Life insurance is where you take out a lump sum benefit. It pays out when you die. That's the only thing that you in your life will never, ever see, unfortunately. But it's going to pay out to your beneficiaries. So when do you need life insurance? I always say, there's 2 instances. When someone that is left behind is going to suffer financially, so a financial dependent. And then the second one, if there's debt that needs to be settled. I normally say to students, if you don't have any of those, you don't need life cover. Don't go into all of that salesman stuff of, yeah, but you're young, the insurance is cheap. All of that is true. It's the right way.
Well, invested.
But if from a Wilco point of view, if I can save you 50 or 100 or 200 Rand per month instead of paying life insurance, that's unnecessary.
A bottle of wine.
No, that's an investment. So then we'd rather allocate it to that. So that's my answer on the life cover.
Go for the wine.
Okay, Wilco, we have a couple of questions here specifically on to purchase or to rent. So I think if you'll send me that link of the recording, I can send it to the delegates with your contact details after the meeting. That would help a lot because we do have a couple requesting as maybe a sit down. But Alfie, there's another one here. Who decides on the attorney when I buy a house? And Wilco, I think I'll leave it at that. The rest are quite detailed questions, so maybe we can answer them directly. Okay.
That's my favorite question of the evening. You guys will see when you sign a sale agreement that the agents usually push you to use a transferring attorney of their choice. But if you go and look at what actually goes on in the market, that is the seller's choice, who the transferring attorney is. But as the purchaser of the property, you'll be paying the cost, the transfer fees. So you are in a position where you can actually say, I want to use the transferring attorney of my choice, X, Y, Z, and ask them for a quote. This is, we're in a very financial, challenging time, so everybody wants to get the best price. So make sure that whoever your transferring attorney is that you ask for, provide you with a pro forma account, and also that you do not just get pushed into using whatever attorney the agents just say use, because there's also reasons why the agents use some of the attorneys that they do. And then also remember that there'll also be a bond attorney involved, and those get appointed by the bank. So either which bank you get your loan from, they will appoint a bond attorney. And remember, you're going to have to pay transfer fees and bond fees. So remember that, 2 sets of fees, and they're more or less the same. So if your transfer fees are in the region of 30,000 Rand, make sure that you budget for your bond fees the same amount, excluding your transfer duty. But when you plan on buying a property, before you make your offer, contact your attorney and get the costs, because those can be quite costly. So make sure that you budget for that as well.
And if I can add on to that, guys, I think it's important, and why we basically finishing the night, don't be afraid to ask questions. Mm-hmm. Yes, you're young. Yes, you're young professionals, but you've got a brain, you've got a mouth. Don't let someone that's older scare you. Don't let 2022 scare you, because there's honestly, there's a lot of information out there. So open your mouth and ask. Keep on asking. If you feel that you don't get the right answer, ask another person. Trust your gut.
Always ask more than one person.
There we go. Ask more, gather information, and don't be scared, and don't be bullied into anything. All right.
1,000 questions.
I don't know. I think, Joe, that's it for the night.
That's it. We have one quick poll that we're running at the moment, and then maybe you can give us some insight as to what you're planning for the next session.
Okay, from my side, I'm going to focus on budgeting. I think that's a very important part. I think that was
one of the big ones.
I saw the questions about the balloon payment, what car to buy, and all of that comes back to budgeting. I think in the registrations, we also had someone that said, yeah, what is a realistic budget and how to actually realistically stick to it? Because we all grow up with, this is your budget, do this, but is it realistic? And that's a very, very good thing to ask, that is sticking to a budget realistically. So I'm going to focus a lot on budgeting, as well as then, guys, please, you have our info. Please send us as much detail. Myself and Alfreda, we love education. This is for us to get out info.
This is the evening where we've got someone babysitting the kids, so this is like a mini date.
Yeah, so we love spending time together, handing out free information, because we want to see people succeed.
True.
So please, you've got our details, send questions up to that. But I'm going to be focusing on budgeting. I might throw one or two things in,
and I'll really have a look at your agreements.
And you're going to be on estate planning.
I'm gonna touch on estate planning and wills, and then also I want to give you guys a quick run through when you buy a property, just the short process that you can expect in the deeds office and what the attorneys will expect of you guys. So it's going to be a quick run through of the transfer process, and then estate planning and wills.
And we might throw one or two surprises in there. Yeah.
Lucky draw.
Yes. Okay. So we messed up part 1 completely, and there were supposed to be 5 people being part of the lucky draw or winning already. Because we couldn't get any info after that, like I said in the short video, we lost
everything.
We basically just had an audio. I saw a question there. How can we get the audio of the first one? We will send it through to all the relative class reps. So what we're going to do now, if you have registered, we're going to print that out by, I think, today's Tuesday? By Thursday. By Thursday, we will be distributing a video where we will actually video record it live, where we're going to pick the winners. We're going to pick 10 this time. There's going to be another 5 And then at the final part,
I
think
hope we
once
can
again,
have a function.
yeah, it's going to be an awesome function, COVID permitting. Like I said, by then I think wave 3 is going to be done. And
I'm going to have some wine. And
we're all going to get together.
But then we'll hang out there.
There's not just always wine, there's some cool drinks as well. And coffee as well. But anyway, guys, it was fun. Thanks.
Cheers, guys.
Joe,
thanks
from
for
our
joining.
side, thank you once again. It was professional. It was awesome.
As always,
we loved
you're
it.
A superstar. Thanks.
And for everyone attending,
thank you. Good
be
luck.
safe. Good luck for the next half of this year.
Yeah.
All of the best with your exams. Stay in there. You're almost done.
Keep warm. Drink wine.
There we go. Awesome. Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Goodbye.